Oh yeah. All right, cool. Okay. Almost done updating this shit. And hopefully some people will come through. It sucks that we got like such a botched start though. Cause
Yeah,
I had like 9 or 10 people like in here, like waiting before the fucking shit shut down.
bro, it happens.
Yeah, no, definitely. Excuse
Yeah, I need to actually get like a camera and mic.
Yeah, bro. That shit helps a lot.
I'm using my laptop, which is, I mean, like, it works great, but it'd be nice to have like, I don't know, stuff actually like static set up.
Oh yeah, absolutely, dude. Um, I am working off my laptop as well, so I know how you feel. And I have a computer on its way to my house soon, and I'm super excited to get that.
Very nice.
I think it's gonna make the stream and everything just a lot better.
Yeah. Do you ever, you know, McKinley Rojas?
We back, baby. Oh, instant fucking hype with the biddies. Love it. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Hmm. You know McKinley Rojas?
The name sounds familiar.
Goes by Starstream Tut.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
He has a pretty decent like camera and mic setup.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we lab a lot, so like he has it set up like right there at his desk, and it's nice that you can have decent posture and whatnot. Like I'll sit down in like that little couch thing and like set up my laptop right there, but you can only sit crisscross for so long.
Yeah, right. That's lit though. I have like 700 chat points and nothing to use them on. I'm gonna need you to handle that. That's lit.
Oh, that's funny. Hmm.
Dude, and my phone has just been like so slow recently. Alright. So let's also get.
Is that a
Huh.
REKU or is that a
Oh, oh yeah, that's what it is, right? You?
yeah, it's a U.
Yeah, hold on, let me fix that for you.
How'd you get this like oh you did you make like a background?
It's like this, right?
Oh, yep.
Alright, alright, bet. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have I have like this background thing that is used for like it's like actually a circle and it's used for portrait frames, but I just like expanded it and used it as the background, and then I have the actual camera frame
Right.
art, so I just duplicated and used it for that.
Very nice.
Whipped up something real quick for him.
Oh, solid.
Thank you. I had realized like right before I was starting, like, oh shit, dude, I don't have like any of this set up yet. And I had already made the post and everything, and I was like, fuck.
I was at work, like, uh, trying to like update my phone, trying to see like what all is going on, and meanwhile I'm trying to like get my work done as well. And finally I saw like the video. I'm like, oh, fucking awesome. Then I remembered, oh shit, my hand's a fucking mess. I gotta go clean.
Oh.
Still kind of cluttered, but a bit better.
Yeah, I feel that. I had to reset up all my camera because normally my laptop is off to the side of me now.
Yeah.
Oh, what gaming chair do you have?
It's one of the DX racers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah, it's actually not too bad. Like, as long as you're sitting in it properly and you have like good posture in it, you're pretty good. But yeah,
For sure.
solid.
Well,
Did you write down any of those talking points? I totally did not.
yeah, I didn't get a chance to. Work was a lot busier than it has been today, than it has been like in the last week or so, or 2 weeks. So I was kind of expecting to get home a little bit earlier and have more time, but I didn't get home until like 3:30.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I had to go deal with the bank, so that happened.
Yeah, yeah, that's fucking rough.
Yeah. Luckily, I get out of work fairly early, so like even though you're on the East Coast, times can line up.
Yeah. Well, we got 3 people right now. I'm gonna wait till we get like at least 5 or so. But is there anywhere you want to generally start? I guess
Uh,
actually. No, sorry. Go ahead.
no, no, please.
Well, I was just gonna say, I guess we should probably start with how you got into gloving and everything, and how long you've been gloving and whatnot, so that we have like a full introduction
Right.
and people know who we're talking with.
That's that's a good idea. um, did the I didn't check the Facebook post.
Actually, if you wanna go on my Twitch and copy the link and make your own post, that way it's kind of bumped because my post has now been edited a bunch since I thought
Yeah.
that it wasn't gonna happen and everything, and we're gonna talk about all kinds of things, brother. All kinds of finger wiggling related things.
Well, the good thing is that we both kind of relate everything to finger wiggling,
Yeah,
so I'm
pretty
sure
much.
about.
Yeah. Well, one post got away from me that wasn't updated. Oh, the brother coming through with the bump. Oh.
Wait, you want me to bump the post or post my own?
No. Just post your own link.
Okay.
That way, anyone who's following you can get the notification as well. want to hear about you guys, how you guys view the OGs, who are your idols and shit. Okay. Well, we can start with that right now, just for the hell of it. For me, how I view the OGs, I mean, I guess it depends on who you're talking about necessarily. There are a lot of different people in the scene who I consider OGs, but not all of them live up to the same standards, I guess I'll say. With that being said, I'll say I look up to, oh gosh, it's gonna be hard pulling names. One sec, let me see. I know I got a general list around here.
So like one of the things about like like OGs, right? Like for me, like Bex, like you're an OG to me.
Right,
UV Flow would be an OG to me.
right. Yeah,
Uh,
Nick.
yeah, there's a lot of like names whenever I talk to more seasoned Glovers that they'll bring up, and I just haven't had the opportunity to like see them or
Right.
like well,
No, yeah, I feel that, dude. That's definitely a big thing. So I guess okay. So we got 5 people in the chat now. So let's start up. So how long have you been gloving?
I started at the end of December 2018, so
Okay.
I'm almost to a year and a half.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So with that being said, definitely your perspective on OGs in the scene is going to be a lot different from per se mine.
Right.
So and even we got the brother in here. See, Wonton, Furion, Influenza, Turtle, etc. Yeah, see, you're saying names like that, and I think I know all of them, but I wouldn't say that they're in my category of people that inspired me, because that's like the generation before the people that inspired me. Although Turtle falls into people that inspired me, so I'm thinking like uh, LA Slater, Mushu, Vivid Mushu. Let's see. Uh, Buddha, Panda, Laughter, Trips, Haiku, Arcade. All of these kind of people are people that I would consider OGs, and those are all people that I definitely look up to as far as gloving goes. So, you are old. Fuck. Yeah, they are all fire. Alright, so, Adam. What is up, Sky Shadow, my boy? So, how did you, get into gloving?
Right. So, oddly enough, I knew about gloving long before I actually got into it.
Right.
The thing is, like, the way I was introduced to it wasn't very good. It was a lot of hand waving, so I didn't really. And then where I was like off and on raving, and then hung out with a few friends one night, and one of my friends happened to be a Glover. His name's Blake, goes by Bajira, and he proceeded to give me like the most amazing light show I've ever gotten in my life, and it was like one of the most spiritual experiences that I've ever had, and never had an experience like it after. But I knew right then and there that that's basically what I wanted. I wanted to do that to
Alright. Alright, sick. So, from there on, you've kind of just, dive head first in. Yeah, dude, applesauce. The boy.
people.
And we got Long back in the house. Yo, we're up to 9 people already. What is up, everyone? We're glad to have you back. We're glad to be here. Twitch had some issues, but we said, fuck that shit, and we chillin'.
Exactly.
Yeah, bro, for real.
Yeah, like I sat down and it was like text messaged me. It was like, yeah, no, it's down. I'm like, I just got everything set
Just
up.
got ready and we're game over, boys. So, who would you say are your biggest influences in the gloving scene right now? Or who are people that you look up to?
Well, of course you your style is like what I'm aiming for.
Right,
Uh,
thank you.
just
Appreciate
because
that.
it's just it's everything, you know. Um, it's transitions on transitions. That's the way I see it, and like I picture it. Just like I'm not there yet, you know.
Right.
Um, definitely a lot of my like local community. Um, like my roommate Matt over here goes by Automatic. He has some
Nice.
pretty cool like style that I enjoy. Then Flow, of course, we got to trade a few times. The last
Nick.
trade was actually pretty awesome.
Yeah, dude. Nick is an awesome glover, dude.
Oh, and his shows are like super long, but you don't regret them.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that. I've definitely gotten a long show from the brother.
Yeah. Um, Moshi as well. Do you know?
Oh
Him?
yeah, 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 yeah. Aviv.
Yeah.
Oh man, what butter.
Yeah. Machine.
Oh, like OG machine.
Yeah, OG Machine.
Okay, all right. Interesting.
Yeah. Just I enjoy a lot of like tech and grid. That's
Right.
like what I love, but like Liquid is definitely something that I had a hard time like getting into.
Liquid.
Yeah, and that's why I was
Okay.
moving to like Flow or Moshi was like really helpful.
Okay. All right. So, where would you say you struggled in liquid? Like, what about it was hard for you?
Um, just the fact that Liquid is so yeah non-uniformity. It's like it's so freeform. It took me a while to like define the structure to it.
Okay. All right. So right, you fall back so heavily on the grid and everything that it's hard to get that free flow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of a
Interesting.
crutch.
Interesting.
But it's also kind of what helps me rely like I rely on it so heavily because like if your angles are good and your isolations are on point, the grid won't fail you.
Yeah.
And like most of my grid I haven't mapped out, but whenever I move along, I don't need to have it mapped out. I just need to know from this point to this point to this point to this point. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Just what the next transition
How
is visually,
right,
rather
how
than like, oh, I'm here, but I know that there's a box on this grid like up here.
exactly.
Right. Okay. Rails will help with that liquid on the grid. Yeah, rails are definitely something that I would say put some time into. That's definitely going to help with your liquid as far as using it on a grid structure.
Yeah, that's when I started working with Rails. That's what I was doing first was like trying to focus on Rails and really hitting those like grid lines, you know,
Right.
and then from that kind of like hitting other grid points with um, Rails and then folds.
Okay. So, applesauce in the chat is asking about rails. So rails essentially is like liquid that rides along a line and a grid. So it's just called rails because it's like the idea of moving along like a railroad. Essentially, you're moving. The liquid moves along it in a grid fashion. What mindset y'all trying to go into a show with? Do you try to visualize your grid and map out your show before you throw it?
Exactly, applesauce. Um, I understand what Alec is asking. Um, So like I'll say how I go about it first, because it's not as uh it's not as good as the way you go about it. I have, so essentially I have these routines or sequences that I love and I drill out, but I've been trying to break out of them, and the way I look at them is chopping them up into smaller pieces and then kind of like seeing what fits where. So when I go into a show, I don't really go with the idea to, oh shoot, really? I don't go with the idea to uh, throw everything in order from start to beginning. But as far as mapping out the grid, sometimes I'll like line up and do some small grid or like large grid motions to really show the framework of what I'm working with.
Okay, so you're like,
Like, I'm going to come here eventually.
right. You're like prefacing the grid for the viewer. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So, just branching off that for a minute, that is actually like a theory concept that me and Puppet have worked with for a few years now. I think we came up with it, and I want to say 2015 or so, where essentially it's called oh god, what constellations is the word I was looking for. So it's called constellations, right? So essentially the idea is you're creating these invisible points on the plane in front of you, and then your moving your concepts around those points to kind of create this shape through negative space based on your concept. Um, it also works for like whip placement and stuff. So one thing that I did a while ago was I took this kind of like flail whip combo, and then before throwing it, you kind of point this like uh, zigzag line, and then throwing this out, you can hit those zigzags, and then create that visually for the POV.
Right.
So not to get too far off the mindset side, as far as mindset goes, for me when I get into a show, really it is all based on the music. So depending on the vibe that is coming from that music, whether it's sad, slow, you're listening to lo-fi, you're listening to something with more energy, I will then kind of create a space in my head based around that ideal, and then work around that to create a grid that works for that style of show that I'm trying to throw, rather than coming in with this like overall grid to try and base everything off of. Because while the grid is the same at all times, the way you manipulate the grid is what changes. Mm-hmm. So if you're manipulating the grid differently for a different style of movement, you're going to result in a different outcome for how it appears to the viewer. Basically make it easier for the viewer to understand intricate concepts. Yeah. What is up, bro? What is up?
Going. Oh, it's Deborah. Hi, Deb. How's it going?
Oh.
Yeah, UCL.
Oh, and we got the boy. Damn, everyone's coming through. Oh, we got 15 people in. What is up, everybody? We are glad to have you here, chilling with the boy.
Yeah. Thanks, bud. Wow, chat is blowing up.
Yeah, dude, we're living it. How do you view fixed 45s? All right, that's a good one.
Okay, yes, I love fixed 45. So, fixed 45s, I view them in a few different ways. So, with this position, the pointers being straight and the pinkies tucked as much as possible, it has a reflection with this over here, right?
Right.
So I started with this and how I move across the grid with it, and I wondered like how I'd connect it here, and this I started playing with after I was doing this. This one was a long time ago, and it's kind of the idea of 45s in motion.
Right. Yeah. I remember this move.
So it takes that fixed 45 and it puts it on kind of a split up rail.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Right. Right. Well, it's that main line in the middle that they're all like pulling tension
exactly.
from.
So whenever you mix it up, you can hit.
Oh. Okay.
Right. And then there's also like one right here.
Ah. All right. Very interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with like pausing the movement and then just moving the isolation.
Yeah.
But whenever they're fixed here, I view them a lot like tucks, really. The idea I have with like moving it down and over, it all falls on the same macro grid that we use to touch. So I try to translate the movements that I have in my tutting and put them into my 45s.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, I have approached 45s more recently in a very different manner because I've been trying to play with the like the shape as a whole that it makes and like kind of zippering it away from each other and using like the isolation movement in it to create different paths and patterns for whips and shit like that, transitions.
Huh. Okay.
Because I think there's like a lot you could do as far as like 45.
So stemming off of the 45s and the in motion 45, this drops into whips so easily because
Right.
your hands are just stacked right here and you can just grab.
Yeah.
Right there, you know. And then you can also do like a climb.
Yeah.
Take those and then open it all up.
Right.
And then you can pick it back up.
Very interesting.
Yes, yeah, Kevin, they do.
They work in an echo rolls.
Yeah, or as what finger stylists call a finger roll. That.
Yeah.
What we would call digital liquid.
Probably yes. Well, yeah. So yeah, digital liquid more or less. Appreciate that, brother. Clusters, 24. Individual. Okay, so let's go with individual definitions of the grid, and then we'll come back to clusters. All right.
Yes.
All right. So you go ahead.
So the way I view the grid, it also stems back to like my Glover name, Recursion, fractals. So the grid itself is a fractal in the sense that you have the tutting grid, and then within it you have smaller and smaller grids, and you can get as small as you want, really. Like RJ was talking to me when we were labbing. He was talking about like this grid, the fingertips. How dude, like I understand, like, but
My man said the fucking box you make right here.
right there, that little guy.
Oh my lord.
That's
Talk about the macro grid.
yes, grids are infinite. But there's also connections throughout the grid from the micro to the macro that I have yet to define. I know they exist. I just haven't defined them yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. See, that one of the scary things about gloving and the way that the grid works is like because it is so infinite, the amount of like different moves and combinations that you could make off like one platform, like one hand position, is like insanity. Me and Matt Suave actually did some calculations a while back with some moves that we were doing, and it just like it got to a point where the number was like so like insane that we were like, there's no point in calculating anymore. Like if we go any further, it's like just ridiculous. Right. And it's funny to me to think that because then you have people who turn around and say like, oh, gloving is dying, like we're running out of moves to do, we've done everything, like
so much you can do. Like I was talking to there are things people like haven't used or like, well, that we know of. I mean, really, the idea of somebody calling a move theirs is like, there have been how many billion people before us? Like, you're telling me they're the first one to put your fingers in that position?
Yeah.
Something, but to claim it as your own is, I don't know.
It's rough, man. There are very few things that people come up with that you can consider original. And it's funny, especially like being around as long as I have, I've seen this like loop of content in concepts, and now I start to see people who are newer to the scene come up with concepts and like, yo, like check this shit out, like I'm super excited about this. And it ends up being a concept that I has been around for multiple years, and I'm like, yo, that's a classic, like I'm glad that you came across that on your own. But it's right? Funny to me for it to be like this new phenomenon for you, and it's been in the scene for like 4 or 5 years or more.
Yeah, I came across that whenever I was messing around, and I came across this on my own.
Right.
And my dumbass was like, oh, no, I haven't seen anybody do this. This is so, I'm the first one to, and then like, I was talking to somebody about it. Yeah, I was Christopher Columbus. Somebody sent me a video from like, I don't know, 2009 of somebody doing glyphs and just hitting that.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, well.
Game over.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, there are uncommon concepts. Like I was messing around in the lab the other night with some friends who were talking about an 8-point cluster that's just tucking your pinky.
Ah.
There we go.
So, while you're talking about this, how do you feel about clusters?
Whack as hell.
Yeah, whack.
No, but I enjoy them. They're very useful for like 2-dimensional grid manipulation. I've been trying to figure out how to expand into 3 dimensions with it, but it's hard to do in a classic 90-degree view. You'd have to be isometric.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're still just points in the air.
Pretty much. So,
right. They're just a little bit.
Oh, I lost you for a second there.
Oh.
All right, you're good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But overall, no, I enjoy them. I think that a lot of people a lot of people don't utilize them to their full advantage, and I think there's still more that can be done with them. Like, this happened whenever was I was talking with Andrew Trump,
Right.
Base Canyon, and I was like 6 or 7 months in, and we were talking about clusters, and all he did was this, and that just blew my mind because I hadn't seen people utilize clusters in that way. Because up until that point, I viewed it as the points, and it's not about the points; it's about the boxes that the points make.
Yeah.
And that's basically what I'm doing whenever I'm playing with my clusters. I'm either outlining a whole box or the corners of the box.
Right. You're creating the negative space box.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely how I would say that I approach clusters for the most part. It's more about the shape that you can kind of create and hold on to, and less about the points themselves. So I've been I've tried to challenge multiple people since clusters came out, basically, to make some kind of cluster that uses this 2D grid and then uses a transition to move onto this side grid, continue the cluster in some way, shape, or form, and bring it back into view in like a different shape or whatever. I'm not sure exactly how it would look, but I think that there's something that could really be done with it, and it seems like no one wants to take it on.
Well, that's super interesting. There's so with the 6 point, we can take it from here, and you can just rotate right there, right?
Right.
The like isolations you can
Ah. Yeah, dude. See, with that there, you can also use that depth to like trace along this finger, and then you're in a different position. So you see how
the Twitch stream is like 20 to 30 seconds behind.
Yeah. That's how it works.
Yeah. So okay, now I'm seeing what you were talking about.
Okay.
Okay, never mind. Now it's gone. Okay, which line?
Well, okay. So your pointer finger is technically pointing at your middle finger that is sitting on top. So if you were to pull those together, you're then tracing along this finger, and you can manipulate it off there instead of running off the pointer finger back here.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you could move along the grid in like a triangular pattern from this position too.
You know who's been really messing around with like triangle clusters?
RJ. Oh well, actually not triangle clusters. You said
It was Hoodie.
Hoodie. Yes. And I watched his the video he posted the other day and saw some of them. Yeah, dude, that shit was awesome.
Fine. That's true. Creepa does do a lot of 3D clusters. He does a lot of like this stuff. It was funny when we were actually at Seattle Boss. He was doing something very similar to this. I'm pretty sure it was like he was using it as a cluster, whereas I use it as a thread.
Right.
And it was just really interesting to see that. I'm trying to understand how the hell he did it.
Rough.
Yeah.
Alright, hold on, let me read this. What's the type of show you aim to throw? Like, for me, I go for hypnotic style to draw the viewer in and keep them in a trance, if that makes sense. Do you guys have certain things that you try to aim for? So I'll start off on that. I try to aim for full emulation of the sounds that are happening in the song. So basically, whatever I can do to make it seem like I am a part of the music and not just a slave to it is what I'm trying to go for.
Slave to the grid.
Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. I mean, the music has always been like that big factor to me as far as the guiding hand to where I
Yeah,
go style wise and concept wise and everything like that.
yeah. I definitely agree with that statement. Like, in whenever I throw the shows that I feel like, oh yeah, I'm fucking this dude up. Like, when I actually feel like that, I don't feel like that until like halfway through the show.
Yeah, got
Like,
to get that groove going.
I don't know what I'm going for until I'm in the song.
Okay,
If
that
that makes
makes
sense.
sense. Yeah, no, totally. That 100% makes sense. Cause kind of like, so what? Do you have like a general start place that you base your shows from, and then you move from there into like some concepts, and then just try to jump
Oh
off
no.
of that? Oh, you're back.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Okay. What was the question? Yeah, the internet just glitched. When I said,
Yeah. We had a big lag spike there. All right. So. Oh shit.
oh, do I have a general starting?
Okay. Yeah. So, do you have like a general starting point that you kind of always start from, and then you kind of go into the show a little bit and you make your way, and then you kind of find where you're at, and the show kind of picks up from there after you throw a few concepts out there and figure where you want to go with it?
Yes and no. I'd say it depends on like the show and who I'm throwing to and what my intent is. If I'm doing like a recording or if it's like at a festival or a show.
Right.
Um, Generally, if like if I don't really know what I'm gonna be going for, if it's like, oh, you want to trade? Oh, sure. You like caught me off guard. Sure, let's just go for it. I'll usually like start start with like grid, either accenting the grid with liquid or um, building the framework, like I said. Um, but I wouldn't say I have a starting specific starting point, but there is a point that I want to always bring attention to in my shows, and that's like the like dead center, right in front of the viewer's face.
Right. Okay, so while we're on that subject, how do you start your shows?
um, I'll start with like, most of the time I start with liquid.
Let me see this.
Just I kind of like bring it up.
This is how you start with the fingers. You do asymmetric or isometric, like center point out, and then that. So.
That's true. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. All right.
I'll basically start with. So I really like this position just because it works with liquid, and you can really go anywhere with it. You can start playing with
Right.
like rails, or you can just straight drop into grid work and
Yeah.
throw like isometric cuts and
Yeah.
stuff, and then transition. The nice thing about the isometric grid is as long as you come back to that center point, like this looks just like this. They're both lines coming out.
Right.
I mean, as long as you come back to that center point, you can transition into 90 degrees.
All right. I dig it. I like it. I think that's a good place to start for shows generally. I kind of do the same thing in a sense, but I do a lot of, I guess, what would be considered not gloving misdirection, but so there's like a subsection of impacting that revolves around like the build up and everything, and like all those moves you see where it's like shooting your hands from side to side and then bringing them around and playing with the peripheral vision of your viewer and everything is something that usually I think is a good warm up for bringing people into the setting of being in a light show, especially if there's someone who doesn't normally get them. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
it's not so like brain overload right away. Like, what am I looking at?
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. Um, there's a question here I saw that was, what are
From
your what are your from Winta? What are your thoughts on going through infinite tech concepts, but in a way that captures the song really well?
oh, infinite tech concepts, but in a way that captures the song really well. Huh. Because I understand what he's saying. Like, there's a certain level of tech vomit that you can kind of do while still being on beat, and it looks well, right? You know, it
Right.
falls into place, right? It's not just tech vomit.
Yeah.
I would
Well,
say that it has to do a lot with um, like emphasis. So the biggest difference you'll see between regular tech vomit and when you start to see what you're talking about is when you start to see like these really intense like ending points for every beat that you hit, right? Your concept is ending on every beat hit, and that's kind of like a subconscious calculation that you have to do of, well, I know this beat is coming. How much time do I have in between this beat and the next beat to execute this trace? So if I want to do this trace and I want to do it between these two very close beats, then I have to do it I have to do it a lot faster than I would normally do it if I'm waiting for a much wider space in between the beat. And um, getting on top of that kind of timing and everything is really what's going to allow you to continue to flow through tech without stopping and still doing it while hitting musicality.
yeah. Yeah, there are a few like one of the things like I do whenever I practice, and it shows in a lot of my shows, is I practice my moves in beats of like 4 and 3. So if like you notice like a lot of like the tech I'll throw is like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Or 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
And the reason for that is just because it's on beat. It hits
Yeah.
well, and um, and there are little things you can do to it. Really like attention to detail type stuff, right? Like what I'll do sometimes is I'll take this trace and then trace out to my pinky, and then pull out, and then as I'm coming down, I'll drop
Uh,
land and slide, right? So it's like,
right.
and that works for like little triple hits at the end of a measure.
Right. Yeah, it's like little snare rolls and shit.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that is another thing that I'll say is an important part of musicality within tech is you need to build concepts around sounds instead of just concepts around the idea of doing a concept. So the movement needs to be based off a certain type of sound, a certain snare, a certain attack on a sound. You know, how powerful is the sound? How powerful is the move that I'm doing appear? You know, how much does it feel like I'm putting a lot of weight behind it for this big, heavy, deep bass sound that I'm hearing? That's very important, and I think a lot of people don't do that. They just kind of make combos that are based on actual concepts, and that's not bad, but creating concepts that are based on the sound itself is what's going to take you into that next realm of being able to stay on beat and integrate it with your tech.
Precisely.
Let's see.
Oh, there was one I wanted to address real quick
Yeah.
because I love. Sunny asked, "What are the best stretches for king tuts?" Um, Stretching this way and this way, but not just here. Like
Mhm.
here, here, here.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
want
yeah.
to stretch in the positions that you're tutting because everything's connected. So if you're out here, right, but you've only stretched this hand like this over here, it's not going to translate whenever you have it away from that position.
Right, because that all has to do with all of the muscles down into your chest and everything.
Exactly. So
Right.
when you're stretching that, and then like I said, like you want to stretch out like this as well, like it's a whole body thing.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. As well as one thing I would say a lot of people don't think about when they're stretching is you want to kind of flex your muscle that you're stretching, because if you just go limp arm and you're just pressing your hand back, you're not really developing the muscle. You kind of have to put a little pressure back, the same way you'd have tension with lifting a weight. That's what builds the muscle and creates
Right.
the memory.
So
Right.
this builder,
Yeah.
the tearing, the
Right.
That also kind of falls into practicing like digit positions. I my pinky, like that, like what we were talking about. Like some people, it is genetic and they can't separate.
Yeah. Right.
The ring, but if you can, some exercises along with stretching that works is getting your hand on a flat surface and holding these fingers down while doing this motion. The idea behind that is the fact that even though the other muscles are trying to move the fingers, by holding them in place, the connection in your brain, the neurons, are still understanding that that finger is still. So over time, you'll build the muscle needed to separate the two. If your tendon is
Right. So one thing that we talked about in the call before the stream is that there are a lot of people in the gloving community that suffer from connected tendons in their hands. Adam's friend over here is one of the few that suffers from this issue, but their tendons in their hand are actually physically connected, which it stops them from ever being able to stretch to a point where they can bend their pinkies independently, and therefore hinders their ability to do certain concepts. If you are watching and you have been stretching this for a long time and it's just not working, there's a good chance that you have connected tendons, and the only way for them to really be fixed would be for you to like tear the tendon and then have it re-heal. So if you're not looking to do that, what I would say is take pride in the fact that you can't use your pinkies and you have to work that much harder to create intricate concepts that aren't thought of by the people who use their pinky as a crutch at all times for a transition or something else. That's a really important mindset to have, I think, when it comes to not being able to bend your pinkies, because they're like Puppet, Surge, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of other people here right now, but just those two names right alone should already tell you that you don't need your pinkies to be a good glover.
Well, yeah, it's like gloving in hard mode, right?
Yeah, it is.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I have always been naturally flexible. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
me too.
Like, the skill that I have gained from gloving, I had a really good platform to start with. I mean, I have really long, flexible fingers. My fingers actually they pop. They all, every single joint in my hand pops, but all my fingers bend like really freaking far.
Right. Yeah.
Like, and my wrist too. Like, I can touch my arm. I know Corey Megasloth, he can go the other way.
Yeah.
But I can't.
It's still something to use to your advantage, my friend.
Right. Oh, exactly. Yeah. I wish I could pull them down. I can push them down. I can't.
Right. You can naturally pull them down, right?
That would be really sweet if I could, though, because you could get some really fucked up angles with cutting.
Yeah, you could. So there was a question I saw a while ago that I actually wanted to address. Evolution of clusters, digits plus text seems like it's really been popular the last 3 years. So actually, I want to say in 2016 is probably when all of the clusters really came into the scene. So for a long time, clusters did not exist. They just were not a part of gloving. You know, people did dials and they did different dial transitions and whatever and combinations, but the idea of clusters did not really exist, or it wasn't practiced by anyone in like a crazy amount. And then the boss that I ended up winning right before IGC happened, the year that I won, there was a big gathering of Glovers, obviously, because it was boss. Everyone's getting together. And Cushman, Pinky, Pilgrim, and Ash were all together. And, I mean, you know, it's a pass the torch to those motherfuckers when it comes to concept creation, because that is just a minefield I wouldn't want to step in. But you know, the Golden Brains eventually came up with this 4-point concept that was essentially the base for clusters, and that was kind of used throughout the weekend by different people. We came up with different like variations of it and whatever, and then I want to say a few weeks, or no, not a few weeks, maybe like a few months after all of that went down and everything, or I could have that time frame messed up, but I know it was a little bit after that, Josh hit the scene with some like serious cluster crazy shit, and like after he put up like the 9-point and everything, it just blew. And ever since then, clusters have been a staple in gloving. It's crazy too, because like I'd even do them in my gloving a lot as a transition now, and I'll like look back and like when I see a certain video, I'm like, oh, this is from before clusters were a thing. Like you can tell because they're doing certain dials and like there are obvious transitions out of them, but they're not taking them because they don't do the clusters. So I thought that was really interesting, and clusters, I think dials were always like super popular in the scene, but they were so difficult to come up with original dials that people just didn't really spend time on it. I think one of the first probably clusters that came out before clusters were even a thing and before even all this came out was Rhapsode had come up with the like triangle, like the 6-point this triangle and this way, and back then that to everyone that was just a dial concept. They were like, oh shit, like this is crazy, because he was like flipping it out and like changing the direction of it and everything, and like that was revolutionary at the time, and that was like a while before clusters ever came out. And you know, I definitely don't think that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's kind of funny because like in the giant 3D Venn diagram that is gloving and all the different parts of it, I kind of view dials as the overarching concept parent to clusters.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I don't use any dials at all.
I notice.
It's really weird. It's like I drive a car but I've never ridden a horse.
Right. I mean, I think that is a common trend in newer glovers, though. A lot of them don't use dials very often because a lot of the appeal of gloving, especially now, is like, you know, crazy moving parts and lots of action, lots of intensity, and dials, you know, stacking your fingers. It's mundane in comparison to like doing like a crazy box concept that leads into king tutting and all kinds of crazy shit. You know, that's what people want to do nowadays. So the idea of doing dials, it just seems so stationary and so lost.
But see, that's funny because like recently I've been trying to like dumb down my moves.
That's important.
because like I realized that like big crazy like concepts aren't always like needed. You know, there is downtime in a song, and you know there are spaces for you to just kind of do simpler things.
Yeah, yeah,
Build the, you know.
yeah, absolutely. Physic was doing clusters years ago though. Yeah, but Physic wasn't like, I don't think, I wouldn't say he was like intentionally doing clusters. He had a lot of concepts that were very similar in execution to the way clusters work, but that the idea behind clusters and creating like the points and everything is just a concept that I don't think was prevalent back then, or an idea that I don't think was that prevalent back then. But hey, shout out to Physic for always being ahead of the game and consistently having videos that would probably take out most of the lounge in a pit that are, from 2012.
Yeah, for real.
Clusters are boneless dials. Yeah, exactly. Nemo and Rockstar for the win. Yo, shout out to people who remember Rockstar.
Yeah, right there. I know Nemo, don't know Rockstar.
Yeah, see, Rockstar is the person who essentially brought dials into the gloving scene. He is like the godfather of dials. Wave tuts, yes sir.
Love wave tuts.
We go back to the basics and clean up. Same, I've been messing with how dials and clusters transition. Yeah, it's really important to go back to the basics and clean up. So, like, touching on what you were just talking about, I think it's, not a lot of people give credit to like doing nothing in a show yet doing something in a show, right? So you're not necessarily throwing a bunch of traces and concepts and everything, but through liquid and rolls and atmosphere created, through POV and depth and whatnot, you can have an entire show with all of that and have it be more entertaining than someone who's throwing 2 minutes of tech vomit. And I think that a lot of people don't practice that. They don't practice, how can I give a show without my concepts? How can I give a show without my combos? Because when you start to focus on what a lot of people would consider your filler in your late show, the in-between your main concepts, it's pretty weak for a lot of people. And especially newer glovers that are coming in the scene, that's like the biggest missing piece to their puzzle, I'd say, is like the in-between. And that's why I feel like, what I was talking about the other day with you is gloving is almost getting to this point where it's more finger styles than it is gloving. And that's one of those big things is finger styles. One of the big things that separates it from gloving is there are little to no transitions between the movements. It's just you hit your point and then bam, bam, and fall back into it. And it's not transitional the same way that gloving is.
Right. It's a very I think it's one of the things whenever I lab with people and we talk about like transitions and how to go about moving from one concept to another or one point to another. And I always bring it back to isolation. Pick a point, isolate it, dance around it, and find your structure. You there?
Yeah, sorry. I had to check something real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, like,
right.
That's the one thing you can always fall back on, really, is isolation on the grid. Regardless of where you are or what point you're in your gloving, you can always isolate from where you're at and then move along the grid to change your placement.
Exactly.
That's one of the things I suggest to people the most when I feel like they're at a point where they can kind of expand on their concepts more, but they're hitting this wall all the time. It's really, spend time playing with your own concepts and then stopping them midway through and then changing your orientation on the grid.
Yeah, it's the best way I can describe it. It's like you're in a car driving from point A to point B, right? You can take the same route that you always take, but if your intention is to be creative, you want to drive a little slower so you don't miss your turns.
Yeah.
Same thing in gloving. You move too quickly, you don't see all the points that you can isolate and shift into.
Yeah, and then once you start to rely, intently on your muscle memory, you start to lose any chance for you to, expand. I mean, if you're going off muscle memory, you're only taking from what you know.
Right, right. That's true. And I think one of the best identifiers of whether or not you're like really trying to make something or if it's muscle memory, if you can hold a conversation, pretty sure it's mostly muscle memory.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, if you think about how people question each other to try and hold conversation and whatever, that is muscle memory. It's something you learn throughout life. Awkward silence. Let me ask you how your day's going. Let me ask you what you did yesterday, what you did over the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely shit you learn for sure.
Hey,
Um,
McFlurry45 says when you say newer glovers, how new are you generally referring to? That's actually a really good question.
I would say within 2 years of gloving. So if you have been gloving for 2 years right now, you still fall into like the very new category in my book. So like, if you're 3, 4 years in, that's where you're starting to get your feet on the ground. I'd say normally. For having your place in the community. That's really when I started to kind of have my feet in the community around 4-ish years. I mean, I think I started to make myself known within the first year or two, but I didn't, you know, have any kind of following or any reason for anyone to follow me before 4 years, because it was just me kind of going through my motions as a glover and figuring things out and trying to learn different concepts and creating different videos that were or weren't good, and doing my own thing until eventually I kind of tapped into that formula and was starting to create content that both I was happy with and the people who were watching were impressed by. And from that point on, I was able to really create a place for myself within the community. But man, being 2 years in, you gotta be really lucky and talented, and skilled to really hit it, in those first 2 years, which is why I give you, so much praise, my man. You're fucking killing it, especially coming out the gate with like 1K likes. That's a feat most people, even after getting sponsored and everything, never accomplish.
And that's the thing too, is it wasn't I can't take full responsibility. It was a group effort. Everybody,
Yeah.
so many people bumped that post. I mean, it has just as many comments as reactions.
Right.
And that was really like, I really do like hold like the community close to my heart, because it's something that I've grown really attached to in this past year and a half.
Right.
It's seeing like everyone progress, and like seeing like new people come in as well, like newer than me, new to me.
Right.
um, it's and seeing how like they view it, it's really, and like you were saying, seeing like the cycles, right? um because it's all a bunch of cycles, and it's really important to like pass that torch on, and it be inclusive.
Yeah. That's like my biggest thing, man. That's what I want to be able to do, is pass on anything that I've been able to learn to the gloving community, because I mean, I we see so many OGs come and go, and this kind of falls back on that first topic, there are a lot of OGs that come into this scene and they spend a lot of time doing things and making friends and creating something of themselves, and then they just kind of up and poof, gone. And I'm not gonna. It's not like there's anything wrong with that. People live their own lives and they, have families and they get jobs and they move away from the gloving scene, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I would say if you're gonna spend a lot of time doing something and you care about it, why are you gonna keep everything that you've learned away from people? 9 times out of 10 you'll see these OGs who kind of leave the scene, but they don't ever really leave. They just kind of linger around in the shadows, and they'll occasionally be at an event, or they'll get randomly recorded by someone and it'll go up and whatever. And it just seems to me like these people, these OGs, they're so critically acclaimed. So many people are like, this is the reason I started gloving. So it seems weird to me that they don't ever feel any kind of want or passion to kind of put back in to the community. And maybe that's just me, maybe it's just I don't think that anyone is required to give back to the community. It's not your duty because you started gloving and you got good to give back to everyone. But for something, it's been so long, such a long part of my life, and gloving has done so much for me that I almost feel like if I can even give back to the scene and help someone fall into the same position that I was in, something that can help them discover who they really are and help them base their entire life for where they're going in the future and everything, that's that would be crazy to me. That would be so big.
Yeah, it's I just lost my train of thought.
Trying to give back to the community.
Yes, giving back to the community. It's well, it's recursive. It's like you said, it's not anyone's responsibility to give back just because they got good, but at the same time, we all have to remember that this whole thing is still, the gloving itself is still so super new. And
yeah,
when I started gloving, I was super frustrated because I was I heard the little terms that were told to me, right? So I went on the Google and I started looking things up because that's what I do. I get into something and I start researching right away to try and figure it out. And there was nothing on Google, and I'm like, what the fuck? So I hit my friend. I'm like, how am I supposed to learn about this? And they're like, oh, Glover's Lounge. Oh, okay, cool. 2-week waiting period.
Rip. Rip.
So I mean, and that's because that's how bad I wanted it, right?
Right.
I wanted it bad enough to go through the motions. Some people might not, and if that number goes up, this is just gonna end up being a silly little finger thing that fades out into history.
Yeah, that's true. And
whereas if you give back to the community and you try to have a strong foothold in society with this art, you'd go down as somebody who did that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that in gloving's current state, we've definitely come face to face with scraping the bottom of the barrel, if for lack of better terms. It's gotten pretty stale in the past few years. I want to say when I was coming up in gloving, the community was thriving. It was constant growth, constant improvement, and we were constantly moving forward with competitions and people flying around the country and everything and whatnot. Back when I had first started and I first flew out to IGC, I was one of 3 or 4 people that had come from out of state to even go to the competition. So it wasn't a thing for people to really be traveling the way that they do now. Now it's mass travel. Everyone is around and going to see their homies and going to competitions and whatever, but it wasn't even really like that back then, you know? And, you know, now that we have that, I feel like people don't take advantage of it the way that they should, right?
Right.
To really build these communities.
We don't really have that opportunity in the moment.
No, yeah, of course, right. No, we are definitely facing adverse causes at the moment.
But I will say, go meet your fucking online friends, dude. Like everybody out there, go meet your online friends. It is the best experience. Like going down to 4KC, getting to meet you. That was awesome.
Dude, that was super dope. Super dope.
Or like when I went down to LAN, Lights All Night in Dallas, like that was the first time I have ever gotten on a plane by myself and flew out somewhere I have never been to meet people I have never actually met in person. 20 years ago, if not even 10 years ago, if you said you were doing that, people would look at you like, what the fuck are you doing?
You're about to die.
You're gonna die.
You're gonna get taken into a cult.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, let's not get into that. You may have already been abducted. It could be too late.
It's not a bad cult, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Shout out to WWG for keeping it fresh and building the Mesa community to build on learning. From Betis Apprentice.
Oh, alright.
Yeah. Oh, David? Oh.
Hi, David. Liddy.
Yes, actually, I want to personally say, yeah, WWG was definitely one of the places that helped foster my growth, and it was really a really nice, nurturing community, and it still is, and I still and it's still like a huge part of it, and I love that family. It's
awesome. Well, shout out to WWG then, man, holding it down. Mario, not as many events anymore. Raves banned it. It makes it difficult to get new people to try it. Yeah, that's definitely a big factor. You know, we have less and less ability to bring our art out into the public as we face more and more adversity due to, you know, people just not generally understanding the art. But that's kind of where I feel we need to put our foot down and kind of, you know, make this choice that we don't need the rave scene to bring new people into gloving. That is just a good medium for doing so. And, you know, that being the focal point of gloving, you know, it hurts us in a way.
Yeah.
And not even just being like drugs, like just raves in general are not always seen in the best light by the general public because they came from a pretty dark place in the 80s and the 70s and shit. You know, underground raves and stuff, it was serious shit, and people were getting geeked the fuck out.
And, you know, no one, like whenever people talk about, you know, the raves back in the day and whatnot, no one really mentions, like, the fact of the matter that there was a lot of crime that happened. Like, there was, you know? Well, you know, at the same time, though, I think it's important for people to... I think too many glovers have the mindset that gloving is directly correlated to raving, and whereas, like, you need to take yourself out of that mindset and think gloving is anywhere.
Right. I mean,
like you were talking about, like how in high school, you just, you know, sit in the back of the class and you're not bothering anybody. You're not on your phone. You're still looking ahead. Like, you're getting the information, you're just making boxes.
Yeah. Like, it was my white noise. It's what helped me concentrate.
Yep.
You know, and like it should. I feel like it should speak volumes to the community that me, someone who, I don't like going to raves. I don't like going to big events or anything. And I never have. I was never into that. I was never part of the cool crowd when we were young and in school. I was never going out to parties or anything. And yet, I still managed to get into gloving and hook, line, and sinker, take into it and make it my life without ever needing to do any of the stuff that people consider the only reason that they glove.
Yeah, see, that's that's super impressive. Like, I'm not gonna lie, if I hadn't been, tripping with my friends that night that I got that light show, I don't know if it would have had the same impact on me.
Yeah, and I mean that's okay. I think it's all right that gloving is related with drugs. I think it is good, right? All art is related with drugs. Like we were
Exactly.
talking the other night, you know. Yeah.
Or Walt Disney even, I mean,
Yeah.
just look look at television. Rick and Morty, Family Guy, all those. I mean, everything coming out of Seth MacFarlane. Like, I mean, come on.
Right.
Like drugs are just they're a part of life.
Yeah.
So, but it is important to I mean, like we were saying, all the work that you put into gloving and making it, legitimizing gloving can get torn down by, a snapshot of somebody getting their face melted off.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You cut to one clip of a little girl out of her fucking mind just
bam, and
and it's game over, bro. We're a bunch of slobs but I mean that is what that is our fight, that is our plight as Glovers, and I think that is part of what also helps us be great, because there are a lot of people who are like, I am not just a roly-poly. I'm better than that. Alright, let's read the chat real quick. Sometimes about passing the torch, to be honest, I'm happy to see SD doing well, even though I'm not doing much for the scene lately because of the people like T-Money and JoJo. But passing the torch is a whole different ballpark, I'd say, because when you're passing the torch, you're still passing all of that knowledge on to someone. You're just packaging it up in a way that is, able to be taken by someone and quickly distributed through their community, instead of you sitting there and person by person giving them all of your knowledge piece by piece and helping them, walking them through step by step. You're still achieving this effect of spreading knowledge, especially when you're doing it through people like T-Money and JoJo, who, they're making their way in the scene. I mean, T-Money, just got captain of CC, and he's making posts all the time about shit, and he's posting videos all the time. I know he likes to act like he's all fucking smug and whatever, and he's a cool guy, he doesn't like gloving, he just tuts, but I mean, T-Money loves the shit, and that kind of enthusiasm is important, and that's what I missed in a lot of OGs, is they never passed it on to anyone, or the people that they did pass it on to didn't want to spread it beyond that. They were like, oh, I learned this from them, and I'm the only person that's supposed to know, and it's like, well, what the fuck, man, why? Doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I'm reading this other one over here, from Calms Calibra.
Yeah, that's Mario.
Mario. Okay. Yeah. So the information that I got from gloving was from my mentor, and he would talk about things about this exact thing where you'd have somebody teach you. It wasn't so much coming up with stuff on your own or having videos, and that's one of the things that I and all new gen should thank older Glovers for, is paving the way, putting the roads in place for us to drive on. It allows us to absorb so much more information so that we can produce so much fresh,
higher quality content.
Right, because when you're new, you don't have any preconceived notions about what gloving is.
Right.
You're defining it as you go. So if you have newer things to work off of, it is just gonna grow that much faster.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, in the terms of giving back to the community, is something that I think a lot of us older Glovers need to collab on, and we need to come together and create a list of revamped tutorials that aren't these 6-year-old Amazing Lights tutorials.
Exactly.
That people could take from, and they can actually oh, this is my starting point for gloving, and this is a basis that I can start off with and not feel like I'm lost.
Exactly. Kind of not just explaining the move itself, but kind of how you get there. you know,
Yeah.
like a cohesive pathway that kind of makes sense. And tutorials more on mindset, you know, instead of
Right. The why.
the why, not the what. Yeah.
Never been to a rave. Shout outs, my dude. Shout outs.
Well,
Um,
you come up then once come up to Seattle once the COVID's
yeah.
over.
Yeah, dude. If you push it away from raves, then you lose the original intent for this dance. Need a balance of the old and the new, like having people like you and Sode. Both of you have an understanding of the root of it, but push it to something bigger. But again, you can't push it away from its roots. Yeah, I'm not saying it should go away from its roots. I think that the community that surrounds, raving culture within gloving is amazing, and like the expression, through personal interaction and like being able to go to raves and just like wander around and spread your art to people through giving them light shows and whatever. I think that's fucking amazing. And if drugs happen to be part of the mix when you're doing that, then more power to you. I just think that we've spent enough time highlighting that spectrum of gloving, and like you said, it's just me and Sode that are kind of on the other spectrum. And I feel like even if you don't have to not go to raves to highlight the other side of gloving. I think there just needs to be an understanding of the people that do go to raves that, you know, there are people who really enjoy gloving without that, and there's a lot more to them than just throwing lights at a rave or trading with people. Like, it, like we were talking about before, Adam,
Yeah.
it's a staple to fall back on in life. It's something that you can create foundations with within yourself and go, oh well, if I know I could do this within gloving, so I can do that. Like with this stream right now, what's happening right now, I would have never started streaming if I didn't think, oh well, I've spent so many years growing my popularity in gloving. Why couldn't I do it with a stream?
Oh, so okay. So like, so many people have used other platforms to launch other projects off of.
Right.
Uh, one of my favorite examples to give is there's this artist called Ken Ashcore,
Okay.
and he makes some pretty funny music. Has a YouTube channel and a bunch of like parody songs, and then some like original like content. Um,
Right.
he actually became big in the furry community and made music around furry stuff, and then launched once he got like to a point. He then launched his own music because he gained confidence through that community, and I think that's freaking awesome.
That's super cool.
So
That's like hella niche.
right, hella.
I love seeing niche content like that though, because it's like,
Furries have bigger conventions than we do.
oh, I believe that. I believe that. We're more niche than furries for sure.
Damn. Oh, that's.
But I mean, the concept of bestiality and stuff has been around since Desire has been around. So that's a rough one for us to compete against. I don't think Twiddle Fingers beats Furry Butt.
Right. One of where was it? Oh, Mohawk Sea. Nice twinnerism. Where was that? Oh, Lawlers though was asking, how do you guys feel?
It's the best way to spread. Yeah, I was just reading it. Yep. What do you think?
Well, what were we talking about with like virtual reality?
Oh yes. Okay.
So one of the biggest issues with gloving and the spread of it is it's such a focused art form. You only have realistically a proper light show, in my opinion, is one-on-one, and to have more than one, you have to start shifting focus, and it doesn't always pan out. So you have that issue. But if you take gloving to a VR standpoint, right, where let's say hand tracking gets to a point where we're actually happy with it, where I could put a virtual ring on this finger, throw a whip, and have it stay without doing the Snapchat glitch.
Right.
Oh, okay, Ian, thank you. It's permutation. That's right. So you'd be able to have more than it's like it's like sharing videos of gloving, but it's better than videos because, like we were saying, a video is a perspective of a perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Right.
not there. And in
POV of a POV.
Right. In a VR setting, you actually would have perspective, and you could actually simulate like an impact show. An impact show would make so much more sense in VR than on camera.
Right, and then we were also talking about how you could then literally pause a show mid-show. You know, like if you were able to just be getting a light show from your homie and be like, "Yo, stop right there," and they just like freeze ice.
You're like looking
And
around
you,
with
and you can turn their body and move from different perspectives and see the gloving from different angles. So that's definitely a huge thing, VR and gloving.
It would also be awesome for a teaching environment as well.
Yeah.
You could program the trails to last 20 seconds, right?
Right.
Look at that. You can get the effects of tripping without tripping. So you basically would throw a whip, right? And then that trail would sit there, and you'd be able to explain the parts of it and what all is going on and why it does what it does because of the perspective that you're looking at, but in reality, the shape it has.
Oh my god, and then you could sit there and you could take the trail and you could move into the perspective of the person throwing and then try to make your lights line up with the trail as much as possible until you got it right.
Dude, I've tried figuring out how to stream from my GoPro to my VR headset, and I haven't figured it out yet.
Oh, shit.
Like...
That would be interesting. So, from my perspective on that whole forefront on spreading gloving, I believe that music videos and like general music consumption is probably a great way for gloving to spread outside of the community. So we already have and have had fingerstylists, tuttists, all kinds of dancers make their debut in music videos for years and years. And I think that creating music videos around gloving and around a focal point of the artist and, you know, their character in whatever video, and then they end up gloving in the video, having that be a part of popular music would be a huge way to get gloving out there. I mean, you know, I said this to Adam, how many times have you had a friend, you know, oh, you didn't know there was a music video to a song that you love, and then you show that song to your friend and they go, oh, well, haven't you seen the music video? The music video is the only reason I knew this song existed, right? There's a whole demographic of people that just pick up on visuals, and I think that if we could put our visuals farther out into the general eye, people would pick up on it like that. You know, there's so many people that are bored and looking for something to fill up their time. Gloving is literally the perfect thing. I mean, you can do it anywhere you go. Right?
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. That's like we were talking about. What was it? You said in the first, like, what, 4 years? Was it 4 years of gloving? You basically practice 6 to 8 hours a day? On average?
Yeah, I want to say 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 48. 48.
So, yeah, basically whenever since I started, on average, 6 to 8 hours a day. I always have music going. I have like 3 sets of the same Bluetooth headphones because I always have music going. So
right.
Anytime something comes to my head, I can just drop it right there. It's a constant thing.
Absolutely.
100%.
Kicking chicken. I wish I could pass on knowledge, but I'm terrible at teaching gloving. So, what I will say the inability to teach gloving comes from is you may be struggling with the why you're doing moves instead of just the how you're doing moves. So, instead of teaching someone the physical muscle memory that is required to execute a concept, while that knowledge is vital for you to be able to do the concept, it's not necessarily what teaches someone how to do a concept or how to envision a concept in their head, and therefore Yeah, right. And it can start to get muddy as far as the understanding of it when you just are using muscle memory and you're trying to employ your muscle memory on their brain when, they can't see inside your head, right? So, with that being said, learning the why moves are done, why they create a certain visual and why certain people's look different than others, all of that information is what's going to start to open you up to the ability to pass on knowledge to people. And like once you start teaching people in that manner, you'll see it click. Like for them, just bam, bam, bam. If they care, it'll click for them. Because there was a long period of time where I didn't understand the why behind the majority of concepts that I do. And as a result, I was really bad at teaching. It was just a lot of, I'm not really sure why. It's just like, that's just how it goes. Like, you just have to do it like this, you know?
Right.
So that's a big factor when it comes to teaching and being able to teach someone in a way that makes sense.
I think the best way to get to that point where you can teach is like, it doesn't matter what move or concept in your mind that you're doing, because anything can be a move as long as you make it look clean or make it look right. So what matters is whatever it is you're doing, define it. Define every part of it. Slow it down and say, what is this? What then next? What is this? What is this? What is this? Like literally, like doing liquid. What is this? What is
Why?
this? What is this? Why am I here? What is that? Like questioning yourself and opening a dialogue with yourself while gloving is one of the best things you can do. Hands down.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, let's see.
Thank you. What you
you
guys
say?
are doing is great.
Haha, bless. Big hearts out. Big hearts out. Yeah, we can get there in VR. Most headsets around 120 degrees horizontal FOV, but there are some like Pimax that have larger FOV. Biggest limitation is that everyone is still using Frenzel lenses, which have high peripheral distortion. Yeah, see, distortion is the biggest problem with a lot of emulation and shit like that for creating that kind of ideal platform. Is you'd have to have like this perfect picture of everything happening.
So I think if I don't work with VR, but I feel like having no lens, just screen, would be best. But the problem is curving pixels is a
Yes, it's difficult.
bitch.
And making them still appear correct, right?
Okay, you could incorporate a lens, but you'd have to incorporate eye tracking as well, and
Right.
the lens would be on like a XY track that would basically track with your eyes, so that the distortion on the lens wouldn't matter.
Right, okay.
And then you would have you could basically extend the peripheral, and distortion still wouldn't matter because you wherever you look, it would just
Interesting.
it would just track, so you wouldn't actually be able to see the distortion. It would just be in the peripheral.
That telling your homie to freeze mid-show thing would be a hella dope way to lab. Exactly, right? It would open up so many possibilities if you could just tell your homie to stop, freeze mid-show on a concept that you're like, yo, what the fuck is that? I mean, how many times have you, like, asked your homie at the end of a show, like, what was that concept? And they're like, yeah, I couldn't tell you even if I tried.
And you could do things like the massive digital structures that you can create with liquid and then move around. You would be able to like identify those trails and explain, so at this point it transitions, and because the trails stay for X amount of time or whatever, you can then move that to over here, and it would make a lot easier.
Yeah, it would make breaking down gloving to its fundamentals a lot easier too, because
I'd be curious. So, you know how we talked about modules?
yeah.
I'd be curious what one of yours would look like. Like all like within a top box, right? All the different right that module, and then because it's a grid, you can just ship that everywhere.
Right,
So
right.
what one of your cubes would look like.
It'd be very interesting.
It would. It would be. I think it'd be pretty solid.
It's possible. Or we'd see the vast holes that I have within my own grid. Everything's an illusion.
Once we get to that point, we could have a 3-dimensional grid floating, right?
Right.
And I don't know how many hours or days I would spend in there trying to perfect my shit because one part of my show fell off of a grid line.
Oh my god, man. Just sitting in there, just like moving along it, like, alright, and I can stop over there. That's 3 paces, alright. Oh man, the creativity would be endless. Yeah, learning the why really helps me. Yeah, absolutely. I got you. People ask how I throw my whips, and I can kinda explain, but I can never understand how to explain my combos. Okay. Well, that's like I said. It's probably. Do you understand why you're doing the concept? Like what the concept is supposed to look like? What the illusion is behind the concept? Because right, everything in gloving is basically an illusion, right? That's the whole mindset of gloving is look at these weird illusions I can create with my hand. Look at these boxes I can make. Look at how I can transform them right before your eyes.
Exactly.
I have a local artist that I gloved 2 songs of, but but after the crazy, hopefully we'll do an actual video together. Dude, that would be dope as hell. I love seeing music artists collab with glovers because I think it's like, it's peak advertisement, right? You have performance on both ends and you have a community on both ends that all intertwine and enjoy each other.
Yeah.
What do you think makes gloving so addictive? You guys practice 6 to 8 hours for years. It takes an enormous amount of dedication to maintain that level of practice. I would say that gloving isn't necessarily addictive.
I would say I love music.
Yeah.
And because I listen to so much music, I glove. Because I probably would have been doing it before if I knew what it was all about.
Right. So, really what it is for me is, I mean, gloving has become the focal point of my life. So, generally as a child, most kids have something that they do. Like, lots of kids will play, baseball, or some kids will be into doing, like, electronics with their parents, or some kids will be into camping and doing, Boy Scout shit. Well, as a child, I was always very deep into art. I always drew a lot. I was very adamant about becoming an artist and drawing for the rest of my life until I found gloving, and then that kind of nudged its way in as I saw so much more room for potential and creativity than I had drawing, because I was very good at, like, replicating drawings. I wasn't good at drawing straight from my head, and that always bothered me, and it was partially because I didn't have the why behind the things that I was drawing. I was just drawing them based off muscle memory that I was forming through watching pictures and stuff. So once gloving got its claws into me, I mean, it became my fallback, the structure in my life. It's something that has provided me emotional support, a way to express myself, a way to discover who I am as a person, and to make friends and to build my future, my own life with inside of a community. And that's not something that a lot of people have generally. You know, a lot of people, if they don't go into sports or they don't go into like a fraternity or anything like that or whatever, they kind of feel lost at a point, you know, with all of their friends kind of going into their own lives and doing their own things. And you know, you may or may not be going to college, but you know, what are your plans exactly, right? Do you know yourself? Do you know what your interests are? Do you know what you love? Do you know what you hate? These are all things that I am fortunate to have the answer to, and they may not all be 100% clear, but for me to be a 21-year-old and to be able to say that confidently is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm at a point in my life where I should basically be bashing my head against the wall and not able to figure anything out.
Yeah, I will say, whenever I met you, your maturity was like surprising.
I appreciate that. It means a lot to me, really.
Yeah. Like, wholesome AF.
I do my best, man. You know, I have my moments, but we're all working towards being better people, right?
Every day.
Let's see. Not just that, but also stopping their flow state and making them restart so they would have to move into a different direction than they originally planned. Dude, if you could do like, hold on, let me rewind 10 seconds. And then you play it again, you're like, wait, let me rewind 10 seconds, bro. Do that move again. Exactly the same, but then go this way with it. That would be awesome. Right, that motivation aspect is something I've been thinking about a lot recently. You have to get so much enjoyment out of something to take on the attention to detail and drilling that is required to be so good. Well, yeah, I mean, if it's something you don't care about, then it's going to be a grueling process to, you know, put that amount of time into it, right? You're going to hate yourself.
100%. Like, I enjoy loving immensely. Like, I wouldn't be doing it otherwise.
Right.
One thing I know that keeps people going and why they got started is hyperactivity and ADHD.
Yeah.
I have ADD.
Yeah, a lot of glovers do. Gloving is, you know, I think I always make this joke, you know, people with like OCD and stuff and whatever, and like or like anxiety, they'll like tap their fingers and shit a lot. But,
right.
So you'd think someone with OCD would want to learn like, oh, if I tap my fingers, I can tap them like in a perfect like roll, like over and over and over again, right? So that kind of like, I mean, you know, there are plenty of toys and things out there that people like click and like twist all day long.
I will say, before I was gloving, I would try to like do different combinations of my fingers on the table. Yeah.
There you go.
Huh.
So, like, I think that's, like, as far as being a pastime and also being a dexterity, like, improvement, like, practice, gloving is something that a lot of people could probably benefit from as far as relaxation therapy goes without even putting on gloves or putting on lights or gloving to music or anything. Actually, something interesting that caught my attention when I was earlier, I was looking for one of your videos to see if I could rip it off and like, you know, chop a clip off of it so I could post it, but I was on my phone, so it just wasn't gonna happen. And I was looking through YouTube, and all of a sudden I'm scrolling through gloving videos, and I notice all of these ASMR gloving videos, and they've got like 50,000 plus views, and it's like 3 or 4 or 5 different videos on different channels that all have like 20 to 60,000 views, and they're like all in the comment section. It's like people being positive as hell. They're like, I love this, it's so mesmerizing, I've watched this 100 times, and like they're not great glovers or anything, but it opened my mind up to like, what could we really be doing in the sense of therapy and meditation with gloving, and how could that be another revenue for expanding our reach and legitimacy?
Right.
Because yoga and shit and murda exercises and stretches and shit like that has been around for as long as time could tell.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean the mudras that you would practice.
Mudras, yes.
Yeah, the mudra yoga, right? All those different positions for different elements and whatnot. Yeah, those are ancient.
And I mean, like, who
Ancient.
who are you gonna tell? You're gonna tell someone, hey, there are these weird little like hand movements you can do, but you stretch a little bit and they get more fluid, and you come away. It's a cool little pastime. You could do it wherever you're going, and you come away with extreme dexterity. I mean, like, I think a lot of glovers take for granted how much dexterity they end up having after they glove for a while. When you go to, like, pick things up and, like, you grab doors and, like, picking pencils up off the ground, like, using your pinky and your ring finger or something stupid. Like, that is not all dexterity that regular people can just do. And, like, being able to bend your pinkies and shit, that stuff, like, really comes in handy in life and weird places.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, for what I do, like getting my hand into tight spaces and working something, like any job that's needed, I'm like the guy to go to.
Right.
Like at my work, like they're like, oh, it's a small space that hands can get into. What is that one? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yo, shout out to Link for coming through, bro. I love you so much. I appreciate your support, and I will hopefully be able to come through on your stream in a little bit. You and Belle both mature as fuck, and I highly respect it. I appreciate that, man, dude. Belle is fucking awesome. She's so cool. So cool. Glad I've been able to meet her. Never was artistic, in my opinion, but gloving was the first time I legitimately felt like I was making art and literally expressing myself. See, and that's another thing. I think gloving is a way for a lot of people to kind of tap into their creative side. You know, because everyone has hands.
it's a total gateway art form.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't have to go out and buy a number 2 pencil or a canvas or anything. You can literally just start right off the bat. Bend your fingers.
I hate when people say like, oh, I practiced, but my gloves haven't come in yet. It's like, what do you mean? You have your hands.
I understand what it feels like to glove with gloves on, and you know, just the feeling behind throwing lights, but
at the same time, immediately, like I practiced for a little bit before my gloves came in, and right off the bat, whenever I put them on, I was like, this is restrictive. Oh God.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like, if you're not practicing before you even have your gloves, the hindrance that comes with putting on gloves is going to hit you tenfold.
Oh yeah.
If you're not already comfortable with doing your concepts without gloves on, because you're not accounting for the whites themselves or the chips or the diffusers. These are all things that completely change the way you move and the concepts that you're able to execute.
Oh, especially clusters.
Yeah.
They are, I'd say, the biggest, clusters and reds.
Yeah.
They're the biggest, you notice the most.
Yeah.
Especially, whenever you're transitioning in clusters, to different formations of different whatever.
Right.
You definitely notice that, oh shit, there's something there.
So, while we're on that subject real quick, how does it feel being a glover coming into the scene where nanos are already like a thing and like gloving with small chips is like regular?
A blessing. I know how good I have it. My roommate, he's been gloving for 8 years.
Oh, sweet. So he's right up there with me.
Yeah. He showed me he went through his stuff the other day and showed me one of the chips.
Inova?
No.
Okay.
It was it had a screw-on back.
Oh, a photon.
Wait. Like, the fuck?
Yeah. Like Glove Max and photons and shit like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Seeing like OG videos, I forget which one, but like seeing set changes happen, like at first when I saw the set change, I'm like, oh, that's cool. It took him a while, and then like they're like, yeah, because he's flipping individual switches.
Individual switches on each finger.
Like, wait, what?
Oh yeah, man. The pipeline of gloving accessories that have come out through the years have been crazy, all the way from, you know, iNovas and Photon Freedoms to Micromaxes to Minimaxes to Elites to finally Nanos. One that I would say you should invest time into is Micromaxes.
Micromaxes?
Yeah. There was a big era in gloving as far as I'm concerned, Micromaxes, because there was like it was, you know, a good period between when E-dots were a thing and when Elites became a thing, and all in between that, your best chips essentially were Micromaxes. It's what everyone used. They were, you know, multi-mode, two-prong bulb chips that had casings that came in multiple colors and shit, and that wasn't something that all gloving chips had at that time. You know, it was pretty rare, honestly. They're probably one of the first things to really have them, because E-dots had colored casings, but they weren't necessarily as popular, I don't think, because E-dots were just such a pain to use.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people have horror stories.
No, my roommate was showing me that it had like a curved back on it or something like that, where like it sat nicely on your finger, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Right, but it's got the... And those have the switch too, right?
Right.
Got the flip switch? Yeah. That's an E-dot. Yep, for sure. Hold on, here we go. One thing I would like to see from glovers is more self-control. Like, I'm all for you grinding hard to get your shows better, but just because you have the opportunity to play with your hands doesn't always mean you should. For example, being at the store with 5 of you at the store is hell embarrassing. Seeing all the people together waving their hands around the store unattractive, so it makes it more difficult to grow it past what it is. I completely disagree. I think that's bullshit, Mario. I'm sorry.
100%.
I think that's bullshit, Mario. If you're, like, being afraid to do it in public is the most pussy shit I've ever heard in my entire life. If people want to judge you on it, that's on them, man. Anyone who doesn't have an open mind to it off the bat doesn't need to be a part of the community, as far as I'm concerned. If you don't see it and think, wow, that's really cool and artistic, and I think that that could be something, then you don't need to be a part of the community. Please leave, because I don't want you here. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, Mario, as far as, like, a lot of people view that as very weird, and, you know, I've spent my entire life people asking me if I have Tourette's or, you know, what the fuck ever, but
right.
That is part...
If you have, like, Asperger's or...
Right. But that's part of us growing the community, you know? I mean, motherfuckers didn't come out the woodwork slapping a ball around with a wooden pallet, and everyone was like, yo, that's a really cool pastime. Like, what are you guys doing? And they were like, baseball. And they were like, oh, let's make that into a national travesty. You know, like, it didn't just happen like that, right? There are levels that you have to go through, and that is one of the levels is, you know, we should be able to do it in public. I mean, people dance in public all the fucking time. What's the problem?
I mean, like, I was, there's this poi spinner, Timotek. He's from Australia, and his videos he does, like, in public, and, like, he did one on, like, in, four-way intersection corner, like, and people were, like, walking by and shit, and it was tight as fuck.
Yeah. Like, take the time to sit down and get in a gloving state of mind, time you can dedicate to just practice and give it 100 or even more than that. But if you're doing it all day, then aren't you practicing at like 50 to 80%? Yeah, but practice is practice. I mean, as long as you're not... Okay, so you can practice incorrectly and create bad habits, right? But if you know how to practice correctly, regardless of whether you're practicing at 10% or 100%, you're still making progress.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I don't know, it's like there's a portion of my brain that always has like a little, like a metronome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I'm like mid-conversation and I'm listening to a song, like that portion of my brain is working, even though I'm having the conversation. Then, like, if I come across something that I really enjoy, like I'll hold on to that, finish what I'm doing, and like keep walking or whatever, and I'll grind it out real quick, see if I perceived it incorrectly or whatever.
Right. Absolutely.
I don't think travesty was the right word for that.
No, yeah, it wasn't. But I mean, look, baseball is a travesty. Come on, let's be real here. I used the word on purpose. I was just waiting for someone to tell me it was the wrong word in usage. Like, I struggled to get the word out, and then I was like, travesty, yeah, that fits. It still fits for me.
That fits.
And I think it's a topic it should be talked about more too, Mario. I think that I think we should have more people talking about gloving in public. That is definitely. And I'm sorry I'm so behind like on these comments. I'm just trying to get them all in.
Remember, I glove at work a lot because, like, my job consists of a lot of like hands-on, but also a lot of hands-off standing around. So
Yeah.
whenever I'm doing that, I can't be on my phone. That's like a rule. So I'm gonna fucking fiddle my finger.
Right. And if you, I mean, like, let's just cut it dry and look at the evidence. I am one of the few people who admits to gloving at this extreme rate. Look at what it's done for my life. I mean, where's the negative correlation, right?
Right.
What has gloving done for me that's really hurt me? Outside of maybe introducing me to a scene that is plausibly dangerous when it comes to drugs and whatnot. Outside of that, I mean, where has it hurt me? Why shouldn't I be practicing all the time, right?
Right. You're perfecting a system that you understand.
Right.
By doing that, it's like use this correlation with flow arts a lot, where if you have like multiple flow arts that you practice, by practicing one, you inadvertently or you indirectly enhance the others because they're all connected in some regard, right?
Yeah.
That's also about life. Okay, if you think of aspects of your life that you improve incrementally as cogs in this giant machine that is your life, when one turns, everything else turns. There are ratios, yes. But
Yep.
one turns, another turns. Like, I have made so many, and I have felt like I have to talk to glover friends whenever I correlate things back to gloving, because I correlate a lot of things back to gloving, because it's a system I understand. And it helps me digest my day-to-day.
Right. Do you ever have people that you consider your friends around you and, like, you'll be relating something back to gloving and you'll think in your head, like, oh, shit, I'm relating it back to gloving again. And then you see the look on their face and they're like, oh, can you just, like, not relate this to gloving for once? And you're like, oh.
Yeah. Big one on that.
Like, one of my closest friends, he'll just be like, oh.
Yeah, every time. My coworkers, yeah.
Yeah. I like nanos for the functionality, but can't get away from bigger chips. I'm a patron of bigger chips. I prefer larger chips, personally.
I personally am stuck to nanos. The only large chips I'd say I have are for my bulbs that I barely use. I should use it more.
Are they E-lights?
No, they're not QT lights. I wanted the QT lights, but didn't have them at the time. I got the LED nano one modes.
Okay, so they're still nanos.
Yeah, but the casings aren't.
Oh, so you have regular
just-
size casings?
Right, because I tried getting nano casings to work with it, but like the bulb doesn't like, or no, I didn't have enough of the casings. I don't know. I think I ordered the wrong ones. I gotta look into it. I haven't touched it in a while.
Okay. One sec.
Let's see. Oh, Recursion is my GF. I'm a travesty. Is that Travis with a CH? curious. Hmm. I think they meant to say intentional practice is more rewarding than just autopilot practice. Uh, yes, it is. I'd say yeah. Intentional practice is definitely more rewarding than autopilot practice, but practice is still practice. Like
Yeah,
like you were saying.
yeah. All practice is practice, man. If you really want to see the progress, put in the extra grind.
Right. So yes, not all practice is good practice though. Mindless practice doesn't always create progress. 100%. Yeah, but
Well, that's what I was saying when you have to understand how to practice correctly to practice in a half you know, full go standpoint and still take something from it.
right. It's also I don't know. I view it as like building the muscle memory. Um, and once you build it, I feel like it's a lot easier to break out of it because you're comfortable.
Right.
Like I don't know. Once once you've been down a road so many times, you notice like an alley that you haven't been down before.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, I got it. Yeah. Good to see you, bud. Or read your text.
Oh shit. All right, man. Well, unfortunately, I think I'm gonna have to call it here for the stream. It's getting pretty late on my end, but I wanted to fucking thank you for coming through, dude. This has
Bro.
been amazing.
Yes. 100%. This was awesome. Uh, thank you for bringing me on. It's an honor, really.
Yeah,
Like,
dude. Hell yeah, man. I'm glad that we were able to make acquaintance and really hit it off.
yeah, yeah. Uh, hope to like get to talk to you more and get like insight. I like the way that you view gloving and like everything about your approach to it as well. It's refreshing and like good people stuff. You know what I mean?
Thank you so much, man. I feel the same way. You know, vice versa, for real. And I think that you will be a true treasure here in the future for gloving. Like you're really gonna progress into something like big, and I think there's gonna be a lot to take away from you, your style, and yourself as a person for the community in times coming to pass. You know.
Thank you. That means a lot. I definitely like we were saying, like I don't feel the need to give back, but I really want to.
Absolutely.
It feels right.
Absolutely. More streams like this. Yeah, man. I have hopefully the next 2-3 streams coming up. We will be doing more content just like this. So stay tuned for more Glovers, more perspective, and more fun. And love all of you guys for coming out. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. Stay easy.